Hey guys, we're going to go over part 2 of finding inverses algebraically. So in order for us to be successful, we need to be able to replace the f of x with y, switch the x and y variables, solve for y, and then replace that y with the right notation with that -1. So first we've got to change our f of x to y. And now we're going to replace the y. This is where we create the inverse with the x, and that x with a y. And now we simply solve for y using inverse operations. Because we're subtracting 5, we're going to add 5 to both sides. We get 2y is equal to x plus 5. Because we cannot combine them, we write it as an expression. I want to isolate this y. It's attached with a 2 by multiplication, and the inverse is division, so we divide by 2. Now during class, I had you guys put parentheses around the x plus 5. But because we're going to be graphing these, I want you guys to separate them, which means each term in the numerator will have the same denominator. So in this case, we have x, that's the first term in the numerator, divided by 2. And then the second term in my numerator is 5, and we're going to also divide that by 2. That's going to help us with our y-intercept and our slope when we get to graphing. So let's go ahead and go over the when you all did in class on your own. That g of x, again, we're going to change it to y. We've got -4x plus 1. We're going to create the inverse by switching the x and the y. And now we're going to solve for y by using inverse operations. We get the expression x minus 1 is equal to -4y. To isolate the y, we need to divide by -4 since we are multiplying with the parentheses around the x minus 1 and then the negative in front, just like we did in class. Now we're going to separate this one and create two fractions. So we have negative, and that's the first term is your x divided by the denominator, and then second term is, and then my second term is -1, still having that negative in front, and we simplify. And then we simplify. Remember, when there's no number in front of the variable, we have a coefficient of 1. So we've got -1x over 4. Now here we have two negatives. That gives us a positive 1 over 4. We're going to do that to the next function as well. Remember, the first step is with y. And now let's switch the x, and now we just solve for y. Remember, we want to get rid of any fractions that we can by multiplying by whatever denominator we have. So in this case, we have 2. Because there's a negative in front of it, we can multiply everything times -2, so we can get rid of that negative already. We've got -2x. These cancel. We've got 1y minus 6. Still, we want to isolate this y, so we do the inverse of subtracting 6, which is adding 6. Remember, we can add x's with constants, so we write the expression to represent it. And now that we've solved for y, we write it in the correct notation, which is -2x plus 6. Okay, let's go to the final example. Now we're looking at the function of h. We go through the same steps or the same success criteria. We're going to change h of x to y. We've got negative 6 plus 3x divided by 2. And then we want to create the inverse between the x's and the y. Notice how we have a fraction here. So we want to get rid of that fraction by multiplying everything times 2, or the denominator 2. So we're going to multiply this whole thing times 2, and then the whole left side times 2. By doing that, these two cancel, and we end up with 2x is equal to negative 6 plus 3y. And we use inverse operations to isolate our y. Here we're subtracting 6, so the inverse is adding 6, gives us 0. We can't add 2 x's with 6, so we write the expression to represent it. And then we still need to isolate our y. It's attached to the 3 by multiplication, so we want to do the inverse, which is divide by 3. And here we can divide this whole thing by 3. And when we write our answer, we'll go ahead and write it as two separate fractions, both with a denominator of 3. So here we have 2x divided by 3, and then positive 6, also divided by 3. And then remember the rule that we always have to simplify. So if we look at our first fraction, we can't simplify it further, so it stays as 2/3 x. But we can simplify 6 divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. After you complete the assignment that you picked up yesterday, go to Google Classroom, and there is a quizzes that you need to complete as well. We will get to graphing on Thursday when I return. All right, have a good one. Bye.